Our next guests are Rachel and Michael Perrett. Rachel and Michael are founders of the Green School New Zealand, a school for years 1 to 13 with a mission to create a community of learners that will make our world sustainable. Welcome.
Kia ora, Kit. Thank you very much for inviting us on tonight.
So Rachel and Michael, there's been a lot of talk about redesigning education post-pandemic and a new paradigm of education. What role does Green School New Zealand play in that?
Yeah, well, firstly, I'd like to say that Green School has been redesigning education for a long time now. So it's not just post-pandemic. Green School Bali has been around for 11 years now with this movement. And to answer your question, I think our role in this is to stand at the vanguard of a new movement. And people have started thinking about what that might be a lot more through this pandemic. So what is our movement? So at Green School, we want to really engage our young learners as precious individuals that all learn in a unique way, that they don't have to be standardised and everyone learn the same way. We want to acknowledge that sustainably caring for our planet is a defining issue of our lives, and it really is. And I think the last few weeks have certainly brought more people along that way of thinking as well. And we want to create a curriculum that addresses the real world issues, and it allows children to mindfully learn and engage with joy, resilience, and optimism. We don't want to be pessimistic. We are very optimistic about our future and that they can be a change maker in a new future. We want to send children into the world with our Green School I Respect values, and that will arm them with a spirit, an entrepreneurial spirit that will allow them to be change makers in the world with passion, rigour, and empathy, and all the skills that we talk about within what we do. And we also want not just our children to be thriving, we want the whole community to be thriving. So a huge part of Green School is about bringing in the parents, whānau, and learning from our community as well.
And so how do you do that? Like, how do you bring people along the journey with something new and unknown? Like, how have you engaged your local iwi, community, parents?
Well, much of what we do is neither new nor unknown. Hence the frequent use of the word regeneration. We're looking back to old wisdom as well as a brighter future. The powerful status quo controls many education systems, and it is very easy for people to feel its pull and remain in its orbit. To free oneself from that orbit requires a pioneering spirit. But research all over the world has shown that the new destination of joyous, authentic, self-directed learning in a natural context it's a liberating and inspiring place to be. And we're buoyed by the number of people that are joining us. For example, we received 600 teacher employment applications before we advertised. So it seems as if we are simply doing what everyone is talking about.
Yeah, and we've designed what we call the Green School Compass. So normally you have your north, south, east and west. And so our cardinal north point is, all our compass points spell the word real, R-E-A-L. And so our true north is about relationships. So it's about our relationship with ourselves. Firstly, it's about our relationship with our community, and then it's our relationship with the world, with nature. And it really does start with knowing thyself first, and then taking that step by step.
Relationships trump procedures every time, just as culture trumps strategy. From the start, regarding the rest of your question, we engaged with iwi and hapu. They were the very first meetings that we had when we decided to appoint ourselves school builders, and after our Bali experience. We knew we'd have to earn our place in this very special land, and we knew that was going to take time. We refer to our relationships as turning earth, and we approach them with a lot of passion and excitement, because we're very, very glad to have endorsement and support from all of our communities. The engagement was extensive and rich, and on multiple occasions we met before the school was opened, and that culminated in a Maori blessing, which was deeply moving, and a ceremony with an equally affecting pōwhiri. We hope that relationship continues to deepen, and in terms of respect and also mutual benefit. We looked to reach consensus rather than just engage in hollow consultation. The other part of your question is about parents. Part of the very important three-legged stool. The Green School, we see our parents' involvement as essential. So parents come on the journey with us, and they're helping us to create a more sustainable future. We have a building called The Bridge, and that's there to bring together the community, faculty, management, parents and teachers in one place. We serve very good coffee, there's very high-speed internet, and it's a place that people can enjoy a different kind of co-working space and also contribute in real time. And a lot of our parents are very interesting and have rich skills that they can share with us. So that bridge is where we welcome parents in the community into the campus. There's our parents, I joke, can park and play. There's no drop-off zone at Green School. There's no need to worry about receiving a parking ticket for enjoying the process. And mission must start local way before it becomes global. Yes, that's about it on that answer, Kit.
So do you have a diverse range of learners from varying socioeconomic backgrounds despite the fees? And if yes, how do you receive community funding?
So importantly, we should identify right now that Rachel and I are the sole funders of Green School New Zealand, and we're part of a global group. Bali, Mexico, South Africa and New Zealand will have 4 schools by the end of 2021. So there's a lot of diversity in that. We were proud to hear that in Taranaki we have up to 70 different cultures. So we're already a melting pot. But as far as what we budgeted for, what we drove for when we were forming our ideas, we looked at a scenario of 50-50. That is 25% New Zealand, 25% Australian, and then say 50% international. And that seems to be where we're heading, despite the closures of airports and the issues that we'll face in time.
So how has the New Zealand cultural context informed how Green School New Zealand runs as opposed to the Green School in Bali, for those people familiar with the Bali?
Yeah, so obviously there's a huge difference between New Zealand and Bali, and so Bali have definitely formed our vision and our values. So I mentioned before, we have our I respect values, which are deeply rooted in everything that every Green School will do. And what we did is we spent quite some time taking the Bali context and the Bali curriculum, and we had a team of 4 people: our CEO Chris Edwards, and the former head of Green School Bali, Leslie Medema, and 2 local New Zealand education consultants who also advise to government, working on taking that Bali context and how do we put it into the New Zealand context. with a special focus on starting local and moving to global, which is part of our compass points as well. And also looking really strongly at Indigenous experiences. So Mike talked about the regeneration. We talk a lot about regeneration, so it's looking into our past, that there are a lot of answers in our past that we can take to our future and go back to nature and look for the answers there. We are consulting, as Mike talked about, with local hapu and iwi. We do teach Te Reo Māori at the school, and we blend it into everything that we do. In New Zealand, as a comparison to Bali, we have very different flora and fauna. We also have so many amazing community trusts and groups doing incredible things within the sustainability realm. So for us here in New Zealand, it's about helping those groups and giving them the support that they need to actually flourish themselves, rather than necessarily creating everything from scratch. So really integrating with them and also with local businesses as well. And that will happen with time. We've obviously only had our 7 weeks before the shutdown, but that is definitely something we're really focused on, getting into the community. And we spent a lot of time last year working with our local community in Taranaki and seeing how we can help and support them. As I mentioned about our compass, so we've got the REAL compass, and the L stands for the local to global. So first we've got relationships, which is our true north, and then it's about experiences, and then it's about taking action and being action orientated, and then the L is local to global. So whilst we've got our values and our mission and our vision set at a global level, we very much interpret that at a local level as well at each site.
So how does the public sector support or hinder you?
We haven't been hindered directly or intentionally, Kat. We've been cherished and we've been supported. Of course, there are a lot of regulatory requirements, and we've seen those as a solid roadmap to success. So we cherish New Zealand, and we tell all of our friends globally that it's the best place in the world to do business and the least corrupt country on the planet. And so, yes, whilst there's been a mountain of work turning a dairy farm into an international destinations private school, we've been helped right along. It's important to note that we have invested heavily in academic rigour, and we've surrounded ourselves with people that are the best of the best and that are well respected, and we're using them to guide us through this process. Our school building team that Rachel mentioned earlier have combined globally opened 1,500 schools previously. So they're well versed in what's required for us to continue to be successful.
And we hope to open the school up after school hours as well to the local community to teach sustainability studies. So that's certainly one of our goals to achieve that, so that we can bring in the local community and give them a taste of what we're doing. We can hopefully also have camps during school holidays, and there are ways that we can try and affect as many people as we can and get the message out there.
It's such fun. Come and join us.
A viewer has asked, how do you imagine a mutually beneficial partnership with iwi?
Well, we would hesitate to imagine anything, because I come from a position of pride and partnership. So I think that it's an evolving process. I often mention that although we may have the capital to do so, instead of putting a beautiful carved gate, we hope one day that we're going to be gifted one, that we're going to earn our spot on the land. So yeah, we're going to take our time and state our intent and wait for permission.
Lovely. A viewer asks, there have been many alternative approaches to education. Why do you think some of the previous efforts have failed?
Well, we have a twofold answer to that question. So most children in the world are not taught by alternative methods. Let's remind ourselves of that. Regarding failures of other nature-based schools, perhaps we could just narrow it down to that, because, as I said, Rachel and I are lucky enough to surround ourselves with great leadership and people that can answer these questions in more detail. However, from our point of view, many of those that, let's say, failed were too fringe, far too easily marginalised. So what we were able to do, coming in late to the party, after 10 years of hard work in Bali in the jungle, was make a list of all of the mistakes that we didn't want to make. So we did a we will not list as soon as we had our we will list. Lack of capital. These are building small towns. The infrastructure cost alone of 100 meg Wi-Fi connection throughout the entire campus is mind-boggling. There's a little bit of ego, perhaps, from people that have tried before, but most importantly, a lack of academic rigor. You see, oh, they're not learning. And so, yeah, by having these world-class operators fill in that gap, the gap that Rachel and I knew was lacking in ourselves and perhaps in the alternative movement itself. So we also have globally significant, iconic architecture and a 121-acre farm in a place of significant natural beauty, 55,000 hectare national park, one of the first in the world, and a river running through the middle of our campus. So we are also very lucky that we have that piece of land. You can't teach something new in a traditional square school. We have redesigned absolutely everything that is school, to the point where we even considered the value of the word school to our project. Another reason perhaps is the rips and currents are tough, really tough. It can be traumatic, and I talked about pulling out of that orbit earlier. It's incredibly stressful to conjure up a project like this. We have used all of our power to do so. We're not crusaders, we're led by others that are better than us. So that's removed that objection or that alienating behaviour that doesn't bring huge teams together. We're not banging a drum. We are invitational. We have a genuine desire to help. I'm a teacher advocate. I had mixed experiences with teachers myself, but the teachers we've assembled here in Taranaki at Green School New Zealand are all my new favourites.
And I think it's important too to recognise that there's some amazing examples of alternative schools that haven't failed. There's Montessori and Steiner School and Reggio Emilia that have done amazing things and helped pave the way for us. But also what's tricky about it is universities, right? And unless the universities change in some way, it makes it hard for these alternative schools to get their pathways into university if they want to not follow NCEA or the likes. So at Green School we are also doing NCEA as well as what we call the Green School Diploma. So we're able to do a blend of the two, simply so that we can still allow our students to be able to get into their universities of choice. And it's important to note that at Green School Bali, with doing their Green School Diploma, that 100% of their graduates that have chosen to go to university have got into their university of choice. So universities often do have a little bit of flexibility. It's just that they don't have enough for our liking, and that makes it hard for the primary and high school systems.
And of those university visits, we had 52 universities turn up to speak directly and recruit our 24 odd graduates of that year. And we see our children being able to line up in a different queue. So they have a different qualification, let's call it the Green School Diploma in this case, and perhaps a side NGO before the age of 17. So that adds to their appeal, and the universities can see a self-starter, an independent learner, and someone that's very, very confident and determined. Yeah, so we know and understand that some parents choose the path of least resistance, but forces, they're gathering now, and some universities are listening. This is the time to do the right thing because we're losing so much talent to an antiquated machine.
So what role do you envisage for yourselves in Green School in showing the future of education in Aotearoa, New Zealand?
Our roles, Kit, sorry, we just lost you there. Our roles?
What role do you envisage for yourself and for Green School in showing the future of education in Aotearoa, New Zealand?
Yeah, well, Michael and I will transition from being the builders of the school into the Board of Trustees. We'll be letting our very well-recognised team lead the way on the education side. We certainly hold the vision, the passion of what we want it to become, and so we'll still be working closely with our team to ensure that happens, and it happens in a very New Zealand context. We are extremely passionate about making it local, and Michael already mentioned we're very loyal to New Zealand and we love New Zealand. You know, we could have chosen a lot of places to do that, to do this, but we chose to come home and do it. New Zealand's a beautiful place, and for us, we don't know of any other combination other than Green School and Aotearoa that would work better together.
And my role is tree planter.
Beautiful. So you said you were only open for 7 weeks before the lockdown. So what's the current role at Green School, and how do you expect this to grow over the coming years?
Yeah, so we started early February with 47 students. So it's all a little bit unknown now with what's happening with immigration. So we're looking at maybe 65 students for term 3 and about 100 for term 1, the beginning of next year. And we want to continue to grow. We've got several more phases of the build planned. So we would like to get to 450 to 500 students eventually. And that will be across year 1 to 13.
And yeah, prior to the recent pandemic, Bali had a waiting list for their school as well, and we've had enormous success with recruitment and also enrolment. The stoppages to international flights we thought was going to be catastrophic for us. It was a sleepless night, as you could probably imagine. We called ourselves an international school and our international airport closed. So, but we're happy to report now that the storm has blown more people towards us, and that inquiries have not only got back online, but are above projections. So we've had more interest just this week than what we expected.
Fantastic. Can you speak a little bit about the world-class educators that you've mentioned?
Yeah, so our current structure is we have a CEO, Chris Edwards. So Chris comes from the UK and most recently was the head at UWC Southeast Asia. So when we were looking around schools, Green School is obviously very purposeful, and it very much has a unique mission. So we were looking at schools that have similar missions, which UWC is amongst that. So Chris was about to head back to the UK when he met Michael and I, and he was very intrigued by it, and he didn't want to finish his career doing the status quo. He really wants to finish his career with making a difference. So he's gone from a school with a roll of 5,000 students to 47 in the middle of a dairy farm in Taranaki. So it's somewhat different for him. He's very driven by our mission, as is everyone that's come on board. You have to be to jump onto a whopper that's going into unknown territory. You've got to believe in the cause. So all our teachers are very passionate. And then under him we have our principal, Stuart Calpine, who is Scottish, and he's also from UWC as well. And then we have our team of educators, which are a mix of local and global. We have a teacher from Green School Bali, which we really wanted to do to bring in what we talked about before, the Green School Bali essence of what Green School is. And we have several local teachers from Taranaki and 30% Indigenous teachers as well. So we've got to really try to blend everything as much as we can between local and international, and really high level curriculum developers. We saw that that's something that we really needed to be seen as serious about our education in New Zealand and not being seen as being fringe. So that academic rigour is also really important to us. And you can learn in nature. You can still learn about statistics and calculus and that in nature. So it's about getting that mix right. And where we are on the scale, with Green School is sort of in the middle. We're not way down this end of just sitting under a tree digging dirt, and then we're not in Tweed. We're in the middle, trying to balance both worlds.
Fantastic. Well, Rachel and Michael, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and all the very best with the future of Green School New Zealand.
Thank you so much, Kit.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.